I'd like to call the Germantown School District Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting to order at 4:45 p.m. on October 7th. Roll call. Loth.
Here.
Medved is absent excused. Mr. Ewert sitting in for Medved.
Here.
And Meg Hutz.
Here.
And Paulak is here as well. Item number 3, approval of the agenda. I'll take a motion.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Loth, second by Cutts. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, approval of minutes for the September 30th, 2024 and October 1st, 2024 meeting. I'll take a motion.
Take a motion to approve the minutes for September 30th, 2024.
And?
And, sorry, October 1st, 2024. We're doing them all at once.
Yes.
Second.
Motion by Ewert, second by Loth. Any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5, reports and updates. We have none. Item number 6, unfinished business, long-range facility planning. Mr. Lord.
Thank you. Yes, so as part of the Facilities Master Planning Services request for proposal process, the district administration asked J.P. Cullen, C.D. Smith, and Plunkett Racich Architects, PRA, to present their approach and proposal as it relates to a facilities condition assessment and long-range planning services to the Buildings and Grounds Committee. C.D. Smith and PRA presented together at the September 30th Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting, and J.P. Cullen presented at the October 1st Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting. The district is now in the evaluation and selection portion of the RFP process. The evaluation criteria used to select firms include completeness of proposal, technical qualifications and competence, record of past performance, and approach to work. Both of these proposals would constitute a one-time cost design build contract. C.D. Smith coming in at $10,000, and that would be with an additional $5,000 from PRA's portion, totaling $15,000. And J.P. Cullen coming in at $16,000 plus the secondary contract with PRA, which would be the additional $5,000, totaling $21,000. In either design contract, C.D. Smith and J.P. Cullen would be the district's point of contact, and PRA would be contracted as a secondary for architecture support. The construction management firm selected will be the district's point of contact. So with that, I would like to open it up for any sort of discussion.
So before we start getting into the details, just like to take a moment to thank J.P. Cullen, C.D. Smith, and PRA for visiting us last week and taking the time to share their perspective and share their thoughts on the RFP that we're talking about. That being said, I'll open it up for anyone's discussions. Mr. Lowe.
Well, I guess I'll go first. So I've had a little bit of time to think about it. We've had business dealings with both C.D. Smith and J.P. Cullen. My computer's restarting. It's okay. Both companies were excellent. It was a little bit of a reminder for me that J.P. Cullen was the one that did Rockfield, the 8 classroom addition there. There were some issues, as there would be with any remodeling. You know, they found some things that, you know, shouldn't have been there, but were, that had to be fixed. C.D. Smith, of course, was the referendum contractor, and they found some things that shouldn't have been there that were. And of course, I felt the reason why I asked one of the questions that I did a week ago was, you know, 4 12-inch water pipes or whatever they were seemed to be completely unknown. That's not okay. It wasn't necessarily CD's fault, but someone needed to look above the ceiling tiles before we got that far. Anyway, what happened for the referendum, J.P. Cullen came in thinking they were in the driver's seat because they had just done Rockfield. And someone told them, well, that's not the case, you better come in prepared. C.D. Smith came in better prepared and gave a better presentation, and that's why we went with them. This time, my feeling was, and anyone can correct me if you think I'm wrong, I'm just giving it the way I saw it. I kind of felt like C.D. Smith came in feeling they were in the driver's seat and they had this because they just did the referendum, and I'm kind of thinking, no, you actually don't. You know, we got to look at, both sides. And I thought J.P. Cullen gave the better presentation this time, so my preference was leaning a little bit towards them. I looked them up as far as their size goes. I thought C.D. Smith was larger than J.P. Cullen, annual revenue-wise. It looks like J.P. Cullen might actually be the bigger company of the two of them. So, I mean, that doesn't matter to me that much. I was hoping one of the companies would have a representative here this evening to maybe break the tie for me and say, hey, Company X showed up, so I'm going to go with Company X because you cared to show up tonight. But since neither one of them is here, the only thing I have to go on right now is the dollar amount. So I'm inclined to go with the lower cost of the two companies unless someone can change my mind on that. And the lower cost was C.D. Smith and PRA. So we get PRA either way. That's not a factor. It is, but we get them either way. So since the C.D. Smith offer is a little bit lower, I'm inclined to go with them, but my mind could easily be changed to J.P. Cullen because I thought they actually gave the better presentation. But I'm looking at this, maybe I think is it $6,000 difference?
Yes.
Maybe in the big run, maybe in the big picture, that doesn't matter. But, if I'm a taxpayer, I might say, which I am, someone might come and say, well, why'd you go with the one that was $6,000 more? And I could easily be convinced of that depending on what the rest of you say. So that's all I got.
Any comments, Mr. Ewing?
I do. I'd kind of like to hear from some of the people that were here for the referendum side of it. So I know we heard from Mike, from Tom, if you can weigh in. You were here for both those projects with Rockfield and the full referendum.
Yeah, I think Michael covered it. Rockfield was good. The referendum in the end, yeah, we had some issues, but we don't know, was it an architecture fault or was it a construction manager who may have been at fault for missing the things that were above the ceiling tiles? I guess I kind of feel the same way Michael does. I liked the presentation that we got from J.P. Cullen. I guess I felt a little bit better about them. I think it helps probably having the owner of the company care enough to show up. That certainly says something. But just like Michael, I guess I'm concerned about the extra expense as well. Overall, $6,000 is not a huge dollar amount when you're looking at everything else that we purchase in this district, but when you look at just the cost of this project, sure, it's a substantial increase versus C.D. Smith.
I think
So-
part of when you asked about the, missing the pipes, I think part of wanting to take on a project like this is taking ownership of when something goes wrong, instead of more or less dismissing it and just, well, it happens. Well, yeah, it does, but then take ownership of that. Say, we should have made sure, we should have. I guess, I think it's just, that just says a lot about a company if they say, yes, we missed it. Whether you did or not, it's just like if I, at work, it's just taking ownership of something that goes wrong. If you're running the crew, you take ownership of that. If you're running the job, you take ownership of that.
And if I can, you had the owner of J.P. Cullen sitting there saying his name's on the company. He takes ownership of it.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I felt like our.
That makes a big difference.
I don't know if JP Cullen had the advantage of seeing a video from the night before. I don't think they did. I don't think it was posted, or was it live? It was live, wasn't it?
Yep.
So they kind of talked about looking above ceiling tiles without being asked, which I was kind of
I noticed that
impressed.
too.
Yeah, and as far as the excuse for not seeing the pipes above the ceiling tiles, I appreciate more. We missed that. We apologize. It won't happen again, and that's all that would have had to have been said. I would have liked that type of answer better than what we actually got
Mhm.
the other evening, if you know what I mean.
It's a concern, and you can't brush off a
Yeah.
concern. You take
Yeah,
ownership
it
of
was
it
a-
and then move
It was a
past.
big one.
Mhm.
So I look at the two public-facing presentations we got, very different in style. Obviously, PRA and CD were together. I thought CD led that presentation, or PRA, sorry, led that presentation.
Oh, yeah.
And CD Smith just kind of, they were there, they were present, they offered some information. I think we're dealing with two really good companies. But the relationship I guess I'm looking for is a construction contractor relationship given where the state of the district is. I don't think we're looking at building a PAC or a field house. So when I ask the question, what do you think, something that might, the red flag or stand out to you that we might have missed during the referendum, right? And C.D. Smith could have said, well, it was more on the facility space, aesthetics, but more space and the use of those spaces, I think is really what that referendum concentrated on. I would have liked them to have that forethought of, we didn't focus on the mechanicals, and we know you have aging mechanicals.
Which
Base-
company are you
CD.
talking?
Instead, PRA answered it
Yeah.
with, well, the middle school didn't get touched much, which tells me there's some pre-thought into that. But what I got from that is the relationship there wasn't C.D. Smith driving the car, it was PRA driving it. And not to say we can't structure a contract that would change that, but I didn't get to see that side from C.D. Smith. I definitely got to see that from Cullen.
Yeah, yeah. I can answer on the middle school. The referendum was originally going to be about 95 million, and we didn't think that would pass. So the middle school didn't get as many updates as otherwise it could have or would have.
Correct.
We pulled about, I don't know if I got the exact number, but it was probably about 9 million to get to the $84 million referendum, which didn't pass by very much. It was only about 500 votes. So, but that's why that's why he was saying he knew the middle school didn't quite get the attention that each
Correct.
of the other schools got.
And I think that's why when I look at this, I'm looking for a contract that deals with the construction side of this, the maintenance, the facility side of this, more than the aesthetics, design, architectural side of it, driving the boat. I think we can structure either contract that way. Actually, that's what we have in front of us, is specifically for either C.D. Smith or J.P. Cullen to be our point of contact, and for them to contract with PRA. I think we have both of those things. Give me just one more second. I think both have worked within our facilities. C.D. Smith, you have the added advantage, they've touched all of our buildings in some form. I just wish that would have been brought forward more. And their initial, you had interviews here, unfortunately I wasn't able to make it to the Cullen interview, but I was at the Smith interview. Quite frankly, that's why I asked for the public presentations to be done. And I got a strong sense of this was step 1 of 5 in how we get from here to a referendum. And I have in this position on the board, and I think most of you agree, we don't have an appetite at a project that ends in referendum, but we do have an appetite, and the question that was asked is, where are our facilities? Where's the maintenance? What are we missing? Let's get some other eyes on it. Let's get a full report of that. And how do we plan that out in a 5 or 10 year plan to pay for it in a responsible manner and project it versus how do we build X new facility or wing to a building. Not that that might not be an answer we would have to face, and this report can do that with the contract, with the architect riding shotgun with one of these construction companies. Cullen just presented themselves more geared to understand the mission that we were asking.
I preferred Cullen's presentation. I thought it was much more thorough, and to your point, went into a lot of detail about actually looking at structural and everything. CD Smith gave me pause because they also said that they check every inch, but then there was the pipe thing, so didn't check every inch. There was the difference in cost to consider. My favorite was Cullen, but I just thought they did a better presentation, and the initial part includes PRA, but if that's all we're looking for right now is an assessment, so decisions can be made as to how to move forward. So if any kind of building stuff would happen down the line, that would be new RFPs for architecture, correct?
Correct,
Yeah.
and even construction management.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the PRA, either one of these directions is gonna be riding it, along,
Yeah, I
with
spoke
either
to
of these
both.
companies.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Ewert. I spoke to both firms before working with Mr. Lord to compose the design-build contract layout, and that was made very clear, and they both agreed that this structure works, and since we only had one RFP from a design firm, that's why PRA is attached to both, and they would be, I spoke to PRA, and obviously if Cullen received the nod this evening and went forward to the finance and the full board for approval, PRA understands they would be, to use your term, sitting shotgun, and we would work directly with Cullen as our point of contact, or CD Smith as our point of contact through all communication and accountability to the process.
I think in the end, we have three really good companies sitting in front of us, right?
Mhm.
Which makes the decision a little tougher. Price point wise, yeah, one's a little more expensive. Their presentation lent itself to the direction I thought this was, as far as a study would go, or we were looking, kind of those questions we were looking to get answered. And I think C.D. Smith probably could have got there if they didn't let PRA run the show, so to speak. Maybe it's nice to have them come as a united front, but maybe we missed some of that then, as far as their presentation goes. And JP Cullen just hit the nail on the head a little closer to what we needed it to be, or what I was looking for this endeavor to bring about for the district. You guys might have different ideas on that.
Did they hit the nail because they had visibility to what was discussed the night before?
Well,
We
they
don't know that.
I think Mr. Pollock, myself, Brittany, and Frank can speak to, because when we saw them internally, their presentation was very similar. You can elaborate, Mr. Pollock. if you
Yeah,
would.
I was just gonna say, I had the opportunity to attend both both of the sessions early on and then obviously last week, and I agree. There wasn't too many tweaks to either one's presentation. Obviously, we had discussed in a previous meeting our concerns and the reason for bringing them back, because referendum was mentioned in both. We're not interested in that. We're very focused on very early stage work, if that's the appropriate term to use. I thought both. I think it's a good thing that it's a hard decision, because that means that they both did an excellent job in preparing for, presenting to us. Obviously, we've had all of these firms in doing work within our district, and either one, I'm sure, would do a very good job. After the first set of presentations, to be honest with you, I had leaned toward Cullen a little bit, primarily just because I thought they just did simply a better job in the presentation. Don't get me wrong, both presented very well. I think during our meetings last week, it kind of ended up in the same result as far as their presentations, how they presented themselves, how they balanced things out, how they answered questions. You know, certainly if they were smart, they watched Monday's meeting. But that's also a smart thing, to watch Monday's meeting and tweak, because all that does for them, both had the same opportunity to prepare for last week's sessions, knowing what, because they better have watched our meeting prior when we shared our concerns and tabled everything. So they should have been watching the whole time. So it's only a smart thing for either one of them. Is one at a disadvantage? Yes, but they also had the same level of preparation time for that, knowing what they knew from our previous meeting. I think part of it, ultimately for me, certainly is the cost. Obviously, when we're dealing with 15 and 21,000, $6,000 is a big amount for those numbers. 6,000 out of our budget, not so much, right? I mean, it's scale at that point. But Michael, to your point with regards to your taxpayer, you're looking at the dollar amounts and those type of things. C.D. Smith, some of those guys who are presenting to us may live in our district, or employees may live in their district. But I know J.P. Cullen pointed it out, and actually there was a couple people here who live in our district who was part of their presentation who would actually be actively working on this project. And so I think there's that, rightly or wrongly, I do give a little bit of a bonus point to Cullen for having those people. They happen to be in those positions, but they happen to have people who live in our district. And so you can't measure this. Is it worth $6,000 to have a couple people working on this project who actually live here? I don't know. But it's nice to know that. It's nice to know that when they come to our meetings to present to us, that there'll be taxpayers who are part of this project who have, obviously a big investment in this school district to do the best they can. I also look at it partly, and I don't know if I'm correct in saying this, but C.D. Smith did a lot of work for the referendum. J.P. Cullen, we know Rockfield, and I'm sure they've done other stuff that's not coming to mind. But it's a new set of eyes looking at the high school and all the other schools in our district that maybe they haven't done a lot of work on. So some of these things, they won't make an assumption. Oh, we worked on that a couple of years ago, it's probably okay. They'll have a fresh set of eyes looking at that. Is it worth the $6,000? I'm not sure, but those are just some of my thoughts with regards to the difference between the two. In the end, whichever way that this committee, ultimately the board, go with, I think we'll get good results out of it, though. But I am leaning more towards J.P. Cullen in the grand scheme of things.
Brittany, can I ask you a budgetary question?
Mm-hmm.
When we set off on this endeavor, obviously you probably structured some dollars to it. Are both of these under that dollar amount?
One of them is right at my dollar amount and one below my dollar amount.
No. So as far as what you had structured for the budget,
I estimated
these
about
fit.
$20,000.
Okay. These fit into that ballpark then. I think if that's the case, just based off the presentations and the focus, I would be leaning towards J.P. Cullen. I know they're $6,000 more, but if we've already earmarked that amount or near that amount, I think we're in a good spot. I mean, initially they were going to come in at 16, and then we'd have to find that architectural firm. And PRA has already come over and said that regardless of which construction firm, our fee would be the same. That I guess that's where I would align with it. I think one of my big concerns when we started this and some of the information we got and that whole step process, how do we get to a referendum, came out, said how do we ask for a study to figure out where our facilities are? And we're asking somebody whose end goal may be a referendum, and the answer not be, you're gonna need a referendum. I think JP answered that question. We've worked with other districts. it's not that CD Smith may or may not have, they didn't understand that or didn't respond to that side of it, which is unfortunate, but JP did. They were able to highlight areas where they were able to do it as a fun project and not a referendum-based project. I think knowing the district and the tours we've been on and what we've seen and the great work that went into that referendum, we have manageable projects going forward. We just need to see what they are and how to prioritize them. And then there may be some construction stuff that does have to grow a building, depending on what we have going on with village development. And we still have those expertise in this, and they'll be able to weigh that information. I guess that would be where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with the 6,000 since it's in the budget. I just didn't want it to be an insignificant number, and that's why I pointed it out.
Oh,
But I
yeah.
think we're okay.
I think we all, that was part of the greater equation, I think.
Yeah.
So, any other comments from?
I'm just curious. I'm not running the meeting, but I'm wondering if Frank has any input, or you don't care one way or the other. It's up to us, or
I do.
Kind of quiet over there.
No, I was taking it all in. I think I've mentally, from my side, I've touched base on pretty much all of those as well. And talking with Chris and Brittany over the last several weeks, I mean, it was a swinging pendulum on which way it was gonna land. Honestly, I think that initial CD Smith drive was mainly because of prior most recent work, which would help this type of process from my eyes, for the facilities assessment to maybe, or expedite it a little bit. If you get the same minds in there to actually do, cause I'm not so sure they did a facilities assessment prior to the referendum, but I think the most recent was 2011, but that was really my driver. And obviously the $6,000 difference, for me, anytime it's the lowest, as long as I know the quality is good, I try to go for the lowest. But in this case, I think that extra $6,000 is definitely not a game changer by any means, so.
I think, Mr. you said it well. We have two great companies to select from and a well-renowned architecture firm for design pieces. At the end of the day, it comes down to two things, and that's communication and accountability. And I think everyone in this room is committed to that no matter what firm is selected this evening to go to finance, it's about the ongoing communication through the process and what was presented, we hold them accountable to, because that's what, at the end of the day, if there hasn't been a condition facilities review since 2011, and that's a long time ago. So we're talking 14 years ago, and those kids that are seniors now were probably in kindergarten when that happened. So we have an opportunity here, regardless of the firm, to plan really soundly for the future. But it's us as an administrative team bringing to you with whatever firm is selected, good communication around the process, and then accountability to what was pitched, that actually transpires, so we can make decisions for the future.
Yeah, and I can't remember which one it was originally, the presentations, but they had asked me my opinion on this as a representative of the board. It might have been Colin, because I don't know, I don't think you were there. And I said to them, communication is going to be part of it. It's I don't know how often we want them in front of the committee or the board to do some presentations, but that they should expect that we would ask that they would come in and give us an update or give us progress or whatever it might be, whatever they feel is appropriate as far as giving all of us that update, but also the community as well. Anybody else?
Well, that was the other thing with Cullen, the marketing lady. I don't know if that was her title, but said she would come in throughout the process and be at meetings and answer questions, so.
And
that's
she's a
good thing, too.
Germantown resident,
Right.
so.
I think that could be up to once per month, depending on how things are going, or maybe for a while.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Michael. We can structure that and not seeing the whole district, but maybe building a different building each month, and then schedule time after the meetings intermittently to visit those buildings. And, you know, it's one thing to sit here and look at that screen and see a map and all that, but it's another thing to be on, then go on site after you've digested the knowledge to actually physically see, if possible. I don't know, I know Michael would probably want to crawl up in the ceiling tiles, but to actually see what they're talking about real time as well. So we can work with, again, whoever's selected on building the structure of what those presentations here look like, as well as to the public, and then what it looks like in person.
Some people actually like crawling around in mechanical rooms.
See, I don't
I
think we
know.
haven't lost you on a building tour yet, but it's come close.
Yeah.
You found places to be, that's for sure.
Well, I think we tried once, but then you crawled over and dropped in where we were, so. Any other discussion?
Can't think of any.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Okay, I will go ahead and make it. Motion with a positive recommendation to the Finance Committee to approve J.P. Cullen as the Facilities Condition Assessment Firm with a contract amount not to exceed $21,000.
I'll second.
Loth with the motion, Ms. Cuts with the second. Any discussion?
Just for clarification, did we need to get PRE's name in there? Or we're covered because it's JP Cullen running the contract at 21,000?
Yeah, but it would be a flow-through cost, is my understanding. So we would issue the contract, which then we'd bring to finance a physical contract to look at, but it would be for 21,000, and then they would pay through to PRA.
Yes, so do we, you think we need anything?
The only thing I can think of is just, if we worded it with JP Cullen as
As the construction management firm, and PRA as the secondary,
totaling 21,000.
totally 21,000. It wouldn't hurt.
Just because we're calling out both
Okay, motion.
companies.
Do we need
Yeah.
to approve the?
Do you want to take back your second? Is that the right way to do it? I can't remember.
Would be a motion,
You have to
Amend.
amendment.
We could amend it,
Yep.
yeah.
All right.
do you
So, yeah, the amendment is, J.P. Cullen as the, what's the acronym?
construction
Yeah,
management
CM
firm.
Construction Management Firm with, PRA as the
Secondary design firm.
secondary design firm.
We have an amendment. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have an amendment for clarification language, identifying JP Cullen as the construction management firm and PRA as a secondary design firm contract with a second. Any discussion on the motion or any discussion on the amendment?
Can't think of any.
Okay, so we're gonna vote on the amendment first. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment passes. Any discussion on the original motion?
Amended motion.
Excuse me, thank you. Amended motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amended motion carries.
Get that, Melissa?
Item number 7, new business, there is none. Item number 8, adjournment. I'll take one final motion.
Move to adjourn?
Second?
Motion by Loth, second by Ewert to adjourn. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting ends at 5:19 PM. Thank you.